Now, I wasn't expecting a miracle because unfortunately the factory, damn it. Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Valvoline and Sparesbox. Don't forget Benny 5 on checkout. This week, we're back on the Pajero Mini. A few little tasks to complete after the original winch installation. We need to put a power steering cooler in. We need to put air conditioning fan back in. And we also need to put our newly refurbished wheels on. Mark at Barrel Brothers kindly actually took care of these before he purged Barrel Brothers of all the original hardware. So there's now no more lathes or anything like that. So unfortunately, the fantastic service is no longer there, but these things look mint. Now, I wasn't expecting a miracle, but he's pretty much turned one out. These things were pretty badly corroded. There is still a little bit of pitting on them, but they look absolutely fantastic. Mark did a lot of machining on them, then got them diamond cut for us as well. So they've come up awesomely. Then we're going to tear the whole front end apart again because we do need to finish off these other tasks. So pull it all apart. So this is our thermo fan. It's an 8-inch Maradyne unit. This particular style of fan is actually reversible, so you actually need to remove the blade assembly to either change it from a puller to a pusher. So Maradyne do actually ship all of these in the puller configuration. So if you are going to mount it on the front as an aircon fan, as we're going to do today, you do want to make sure it is in a pusher configuration. Otherwise, it's going to do exactly the opposite of what you want to do. And it'll basically just run and create a big air dam there because it'll be spinning against the airflow. And more often than not, it actually burns the motors out too because the airflow or the air speed at highway speeds will basically try and spin the thing backwards and just, it's not going to go well. So yeah, definitely worth checking if it's reversible. Some fans on the market don't flip the blade and you reverse the polarity. They're definitely not as efficient as something like this where the blade's flipped. So yeah, definitely worth keeping in mind and looking what's available to suit your exact application because yeah, there's tons of different fans out there. I've actually got these in the Cresta on the transmission coolers as well and on the radiator, and they've copped a beating for a very long time. So pretty good product, and yeah, something I like to keep using. They're also actually waterproof as well. So on a 4-wheel drive or any sort of heavy application where it's going to see a lot of elements, these are a good thing. So I'm going to swap this fan over and start to look at the mounting options and work out what's the best way to put the thing onto the core, and we'll keep on trucking. Then we'll attack some wiring because I love wiring. So now that we've had a look at the setup of where the fan's going to sit, there's not really a lot of mounting options, and these actually come with the fans, and I don't typically like using them because they're not really, in my opinion, up to the task of holding a large fan to a radiator or a condenser. However, because this fan is so small and light, I think these are going to work pretty well. So it's effectively like a cable tie. So you just got to basically move the fins out of the way with something sharp like a pick, and then you can just push it back through, and you basically run the retainer down the back and cut them to length. So I think in this particular setup, these will work pretty well. I'll probably nutsert it and put spacers in there as well and basically mount it into these. Like I'll probably have to do a little bit of a trim around that catch, but we'll do a test fit with the grill. But the only concerning thing is there's not a lot of space, like looking at that. So maybe I can put a shorter spacer under there. I'm just trying to keep it off the fan.
Man, the confidence.
What?
Just chopping shit.
Yeah, it's like right against it. So I'll probably get a shorter spacer. Some of those. We've got the cooler mounted up. Obviously this isn't originally where we were envisioning putting it. I had planned to mount it vertically on this driver's side. However, the core is just a little bit too tall. This is a 17 row. You can also get a 12 row, which probably would have worked much better. However, I already had this, so this isn't actually brand new, second hand, but it's off a known car, so I'm not uncomfortable with using it. So yeah, we've got the lower mount obviously sorted now, and I think the easiest course of action to mount the top is actually just going to be to drill through both the cooler core and this radiator support bracket, and then I'll just nutsert the support bracket, and then we can just put a couple more spacers in and it'll get it to sit pretty nicely. I do need to use spacers because without them it will hit on this aircon fan, and before finally mounting it I'm actually going to bolt the condenser back in 100% to make sure that everything's in the correct spot, because I'd hate to do all of this drilling and adjustments and whatnot only for the condenser to sit 10 mil forward or 10 mil further back than we'd originally anticipated. So yeah, just want to get that back in the correct spot and then we're pretty much good to go. I like that you can't really notice it direct from the front either, like because the grill slat's angled, it's like this big piece of aluminium, like a wannabe intercooler hanging out the front. That's not the way you want to run it, evidently. Shame we couldn't have mounted it like another 5 centimeters down. So we're at the point of the install of the power steering cooler where we're actually plumbing it in. Now we have covered power steering coolers and their installation before, but I thought I'd touch on it again. Under no circumstances do you want to be plumbing your power steering cooler into the pressure side of the system. You always want to look for the return side, and it's easily identifiable by the low pressure clamps. So the OEM clamp on this particular setup is just one of these pinched together spring clamps. So all the other stuff is high pressure crimped or threaded directly into something. So as soon as you see like a spring clamp or a low pressure clamp, that pretty much tells you that is going to be the low pressure side. Also, another way to identify is the high pressure side will 9 times out of 10 have a much thinner line. So this particular setup has a 6 or 7 millimeter high pressure and a 10 millimeter low pressure. So that's pretty common on a lot of Japanese cars. So it's easy to identify by looking for the larger of the two pipes. So normally you can use a 3/8 transmission cooler line, or in this particular instance we've used Racewatch 400 series -6 push on hose. So yeah, always make sure to remember to replace the clamps, because a lot of the times the OE wall thickness in the hose will be larger than the hose you're using. So if you use a worm drive clamp, you're always going to be secure. A lot of these spring clamps are obviously designed to pre-tension a certain overall diameter hose. So yeah, you can run into issues with either not enough clamping pressure or so much clamping pressure that you can't actually get the hose onto the hard line. So yeah, definitely worth thinking. And we're going to keep bashing away. We've now got obviously our cooler line from the cooler to the rack. So now we've got to go from the cooler to our reservoir. So we'll get it back on the ground and remove the hose that's currently between the rack and the reservoir so that we can run that new bridging line and work out our lengths, cut it, terminate it, and fill it with Dex 3 and call it done. Now, once you've run your line, you want to make sure that it's not going to interfere with your belts or your harmonic balancer or any fans or anything. So it's always a good idea to look at your hose path and make sure that you can cable tie it away. So we're just going to cable tie this line back to the radiator now, because it's got some nice little mounting tabs on it and it's not going to impede on the path of the fan or the belts or anything. So yeah, make sure that you always keep your belts or keep your hoses away from anything that can cut it, because ATF, or in this case power steering fluid, is pretty flammable at heat. So if it's on a turbo or something, it can definitely catch on fire and give you a bad day.
what's possible and what's not. Because I don't really four-wheel drive.
Well, definitely winches. Well, another pretty successful episode with the Pajero Mini. We've got obviously the power steering cooler and the aircon fan installed. We've also now come out and tested the winch because we hadn't as yet tested it other than me physically pulling it. So yeah, we found a pretty big incline, which you probably can't really tell on camera, but it's quite steep. So it was good to be able to test it. I didn't actually try and use the engine power at all, purely use the winch. However, we did have the engine running to make sure that the battery's charged and there's sufficient current to power the winch efficiently. So yeah, pretty happy with the results of the test. And yeah, it's all gone well. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.